you today. Okay, so let's click, got it. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen and show some slides, and we'll get started. So we're going to talk about financial wellness today, and financial wellness incorporates not just, nuts and bolts about money, but also how we think about money. So we're going to talk about different ways to think about money. And I do want to let you know that at one point during the presentation, I am going to ask you to write something. So it would be great if you have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil handy. Okay, so I think you all know what HFA is. And these, I know you have sponsors tonight, which is fabulous. Thank you to the sponsors. But HFA has also requested that we thank these sponsors. So thank you to these sponsors too. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a money coach, which is different from a financial planner or financial analyst. So what a planner or an analyst does is help people with investments, manage their money, talk about retirement planning, that sort of thing. And I do something a little bit different as a coach. What I do is help people with the basic personal finance skills that we're often just not taught. It's not taught in high school, it's not taught in college, and we enter adulthood and we're just supposed to know how to manage our money. And often it's very difficult. So I help people with budgeting. I help people, as Michelle said, to make debt pay down plans, to make savings plans. What's credit? How do you improve your credit score? What's net worth? Why is that important to track? All of those good things. And I also work with people a lot on the money mindset part of money, because the thoughts we have about money really impact what we do with our money. So I'll give you my history to tell you what my money mindset was and sort of how that changed over time. So I'm a single mom. I have two now young adult daughters. And when they were growing up, I had a lot of excuses about money. I told myself this story, and it really was just a story, that I had bandwidth for two things: my business, which at that time was a preschool, and my kids. And everything else, later. I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later. And finances were one of those things that I just said, I'll get to later. I'll get to later. And we all know what happens when we put finances on the back burner. We don't save much. We don't invest much. We go into debt, and things start getting a little out of control. And when my kids got a little bit older, I said, it's time. I really have to do something about this. So I started learning about personal finance. I read every book. I took courses. I listened to podcasts. I really dove in. And who knew how fascinating it was? I had no idea I would love it so much. And I got this little bug in my ear that this is what I want to do. I want to help people with this. I started transforming my own financial life and really wish that there had been somebody like me way back when, just to push me to do a few little things. Anyway, as I said, I started transforming my own financial life and started helping other people with it, eventually closed my preschool, and now this is what I do. So I do financial education, I teach classes, I do workshops, and I work one-on-one with people to coach them. Okay. Let's start by talking about our money stories. My money story was, I don't have time. I don't have time to pay attention to it. I also had some other money stories. We all have stories, maybe from the way we grew up, maybe from the way our parents managed money. And I'm going to go through a few of these, and maybe in the chat you can write, do any of these ring a bell for you? What's your basic money story, if you're willing to share? And the thing about these stories is, if we cast them in stone, they're fixed and forever. So let's look at them, and then let's look at how maybe we can transform some of them. So first, I'll never be good with money. I never was good with money. I never will be good with money. Okay? It's not really set in stone. You can learn. Being an adult means having debt. Anybody have this one? This story, like debt is just a part of life. Okay, again, just a story. My health condition or the health condition of my loved one prevents me from getting on top of my personal finances. And that's a big one. So let's acknowledge that. But again, there are some things that you can do. I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, or I'm a helper. You know, I'm a social worker, I'm a teacher, so I'll never make much money. That's another common story. This was mine, one of mine. I don't have time to change my money habits. All my problems would be solved if only I had more money. So again, these are just stories. So I'd like you to take just a minute and ask yourself, you know, what was the main message I learned about money as I was growing up? And do I still believe that message? And is that belief holding me back or propelling me forward? If you're very lucky, you grew up in a family where you were taught, you know, you have the power to make the money you need to live the kind of life you want to live. Most of us grew up in households where we were taught very different stories. So why don't you take a minute, if you're willing to share, put it in the chat. If not, that's fine, just do it for yourself. Just think about, you know, what's your money story? And is this a money story that's limiting, or is it a money story that's helpful for you? Okay, and one thing that we can do is take some of those cast in stone money messages and turn them from a statement that's fixed and forever into a question. So for example, if our story is my health condition prevents me from getting on top of my finances, you could turn that around and say, how can I get on top of my finances given my health condition? And I do want to say something here about the difference between changing your money mindset and positive thinking, because we can think positive thoughts all day long, and it doesn't mean we're going to change our behavior. So we can say, oh, money's going to rain down on me, but that's not going to help us. What will help us is if we change these set mindsets into questions, we start opening up the way to take action. And of course, it's the action that's going to lead us to make a difference in our lives. Okay, I would like to, let me just look here. I would like to look at one of these money stories, which is, if only I had more money, everything would be great. All right, so I have a question for you. Who is richer, Daniel or Martina? So Daniel makes $250,000 a year. He drives a fancy car. He sends his kids to private school. He lives in a big house. And Martina makes a much more modest salary. She drives a Honda Civic, sends her kids to public school, lives in a much more modest house. So who's richer? Tell me in the chat who you think is richer, Daniel or Martina. Ah, I see a lot of Martinas. This is interesting because most people, depends. Yes, depends is really the answer. That is correct. Most people would say right away, Daniel, you know, like Daniel, of course, because he's got all the trappings of wealth, but not necessarily. The question is, what does he do with his money? Does he spend it all or even more than he has? Because yes, it is possible to spend up to $250,000 a year or even more for those car payments for that fancy car, for the mortgage for that big house, for the private school tuitions, for fancy vacations. Or does he save and invest? If he does, likely he is richer. However, if he is spending up to that $250,000 and Martina, even on her more modest salary, is putting aside some money every month, she's building wealth and she is richer. So it really depends. A lot of times it depends on what you do with your money, not necessarily how much comes in. mean, I would like to make a caveat that if you are struggling to put food on the table and to keep a roof over your head, yes, more money matters. Increasing your income matters. If you are okay, if you're able to put food on the table, if you're able to keep that roof over your head and house your family, then what you do with your money can really make a difference. Okay. Whoops. So I would like to move on to talking about values. So that what we talked about so far is sort of our money mindset, how we think about money, and how changing the way we think about money might open the way for us to take some actions, and how those stories don't have to be fixed in forever. And now I'd like to talk about money and values. This is something that most financial professionals don't talk about. Most people, talk about all that important stuff, 401ks and IRAs, and super important. And we will talk about that a little further on in the presentation. But it's also, I think, so important to talk about, what do you want out of your life? What are you saving your money for? So let's play a little game. This is where you're going to need your paper and your pen or pencil. Okay, so let's move on here. So in this game, I am going to give you two different things. And I want you to take your piece of paper and on the left-hand side, number it 1 through 8, like that. And then you can also make another column 1 through 4. Okay, so we're going to start here with 1 through 8. And I'm going to show you two things without thinking much about it. You're going to choose one, whichever one pulls you the most, whichever one feels the most important to you. There is no right or wrong answer. What's important to you may not be important to somebody else. So this isn't a right or wrong kind of game. It's just, let's do it quickly. Let's not think about it too much. And let's just write down the one that pulls you the most. And I do want to make a caveat at the beginning that, of course, your highest value is health, and you're going to spend money for treatment. So that we won't even put that as one of them. That's a given. Okay, ready? Number 1, travel or a nice car? Which one pulls you the most? Write it down next to number 1. Okay, number 2, family experiences or gifts for kids, family, or friends. Which one's more important? Like taking the kids places and going camping with them and other places with them, or buying gifts. Again, no right or wrong answer. All right, number 3, giving to charity or church, or expressing your creativity. Okay, which one is more important to you? Number 4, security and worst case prep. Now we all know that there are wildfires and all sorts of things. So spending some money for preparation, or freedom to do as I please. Being free of the 9 to 5. Which one is the one that pulls you the most out of those two? All right, having a large, lovely home or doing work you love? What would you say is the highest value for you out of those two? Next one, education or self-improvement for your kids or for yourself, going back to school, educating your kids, or adventure. nice clothes or high quality food? What's more important to you? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. And then our final one, attending arts or sports events or providing financial help to family or friends. Okay, so now you have a list of 1 to 8. Now I'm going to call out some numbers and I want you to do the same thing we just did, but I want you to compare what you wrote next to those two numbers. All right, ready? All right, number 1 and number 8. Compare those two, and then in number 1 in the other column, write which one of those two is a stronger value for you. Number 2 and number 7. Number 3 and number 6. Number 4 and number 5. Okay.
Sorry, there's a quick question. What was
number 1? Let's
Yeah.
go back. Let's go back and look. So it was travel or nice car.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so now you have a list of 4. Now, again, there may be things that are not on this list that are super important to you. The point is to start thinking about what you really want, what you want more than other things, and then to look at the way you spend your money and to align your spending with what you value the most highly. So let's say, here, let's take a look at these. Let's say you let's go back. Let's say you value large, lovely home. And let's say you value freedom to do as you please. And let's say you value travel. Let's say travel is like really up there for you. Most people spend money the way they've been taught to spend money, the way everybody else spends money. They work, they either pay rent or buy a home, the larger the better. They buy a nice car, often a new car every few years, either to lease or to buy, to have a nice car. And instead, I would urge you to look at what your values are. Let's say that travel is your highest value. You might want to rethink some of that spending. If you're buying a new car every few years and you just can't find the money for you and your family to travel, well, maybe you drive your car longer. Maybe you sell the car that's giving you super high car payments every month. And of course, the car market is super crazy right now. In ordinary times, I would say buy a used car, but often the used car prices right now are near the same as what the new car prices are. But maybe you buy a more modest car and you take that savings and you put it towards travel. In the same way, maybe you do something radical and downsize your home or bring a roommate in. You're going to get a lot of pushback from friends and family sometimes if you align your spending with your values, because you're not going to live the way all of your peers live. You might choose to live your life a little bit differently, but you'll be satisfied in knowing that you're spending money for your life and your family's life, working towards what you want rather than what society says you should want. Okay. Let's move on. So values-based spending just means spending enthusiastically on those things you value highly and slashing spending on everything else. If you really want travel, Hello? Did somebody say something? I wasn't sure if somebody was asking me a question. Okay. And slashing money on other things. All right. There are two ways to get your financial life in balance. One is making money, and the other is taking care of your spending. You can increase your income, you can cut your spending. You can do one or the other, or you can do both. So let's first look at the income side of the equation. And the first thing that you can do if you feel like you need more money is you can negotiate your salary. You can really do a superb job on the job, show your value, and negotiate for a higher salary, or even change jobs for more income. But health issues, as you know, often prevent this from happening. Sometimes you have to miss work. Sometimes you have to miss work because of your child, maybe not always able to meet deadlines. So if you are very lucky and you have very flexible workplace and you can shine on the workplace, even with that sort of needing to be flexible, fantastic. Many people don't have that. And so you might want to consider a side hustle, a side job to bring in a little extra money. And this can be a job that's very flexible. You do it when you are feeling good. You do it when you have the time to do it. And you don't do it when you're not. So it can be anything, freelance writing, if that's something you're good at, website design, if that's something you're good at, creating digital products to sell on Etsy, picking things up at the thrift store and selling them for a profit. Their really ideas are limitless. It just depends. It's limited by your imagination. But you can do something that allows you to work when you're able and bring in some extra money. Side jobs that I've had over the years include pet sitting, taking care of dogs for a little bit of extra money, tutoring, working with children to help them learn English. I can't even think, but many. I've had many over the years. All right, another thing you might consider doing, again, people might say, oh, I don't want to do that, but it's a way of bringing in some extra income, renting out a room in your home if you have the space, even space in your garage. People will pay to store things. So if you have a garage or you have a basement, you could store things for people. There's even a website where you could rent out your car if you're not using it. If you work from home and your car is sitting in your driveway, it can be making a little bit of income for you. Again, once you start thinking of ideas, they can be pretty limitless. Okay, let's go to the other side of the equation and start thinking about things that you can do on the spending side, saving side, investing side. So I like to call this the wealth ladder, sort of steps that you can take one by one to start building up your financial wealth, building wealth. All right, so the first thing is budget. How many people here budget? How many people follow a budget? You can say in the chat, I do, or I don't. Anybody follow a budget? Oh, good. Yeah, I see some people do. Yes, budget only for work. Yeah. Yeah, wow, this is a really unusual group. This is great. A lot of you actually are budgeting and following a budget. Budgets can be hard. People don't want to do them because they feel restricted by them. They don't want to budget because they're hard to follow. They don't want to budget because they think that they have to track every single penny, and that feels really overwhelming. But you don't have to do that. I use a method with my clients for budgeting where certain things are on auto pay, certain things you do have to look at, and you don't have to worry about tracking every penny. I will say that one thing that you probably want to do in your budget, if you don't already do this, is a concept called sinking funds. Anybody know what sinking funds are? You heard that term before? All right, so let's think about the things. It's easy to make a budget for a month. You know what you spend on groceries most of the time. You know what you spend for the electric bill. You know what you spend for your rent or mortgage. You know what you spend on medical costs, pretty much. But what happens is that people don't budget for the things that we know are coming up, but they don't happen every month. So often people don't have an item in their budget for things like gifts. And then the holidays come around and all of a sudden you're going to the credit cards because you haven't saved up the money for buying the gifts for the holidays. What about when your car needs tires? Again, oh, the car needs tires or the car needs new brakes. I had better pull from my savings or I better go to those credit cards because I haven't budgeted for that. So sinking funds are thinking about all the things that happen throughout the year. You can even take a calendar and look at every month and think, what's coming up this month? What's coming up this month? What's coming up this month? Add those costs up for the whole year, divide by 12, and every month in a savings account, put that much money in a special savings account just for those items. And when those items come up, guess what? You've saved the money. You have it in that sinking fund account. So that's just one little tip for budgeting. But it doesn't have to be my method. There are many apps for budgeting. There's one called Mint that people like. There's one called YNAB, which is an acronym YNAB, you need a budget. That one does cost money. That's $80 a year, and you do have to track every single penny with that one. But people say it changes their life. So if you want to try out an app, if you want to try out just doing it, writing it down or doing a spreadsheet, but a budget is like a roadmap. You wouldn't go on a trip without a map or a GPS because who knows where you'd end up. Same thing with your money. If you don't have a budget, you don't have a map. Okay, yeah, good, Sarai. Good for getting away from the credit cards. Excellent. Okay, let's move on. Build up an emergency fund. Again, if money is tight, and now in these inflationary times, of course, money is tight for most of us, even if you can put a little bit of money aside every month into a special account for an emergency fund. So what happens if you lose your job? You know, do you have to go to your credit cards and rack up all kinds of interest? Or do you have money saved so that you have 3 months of expenses to fall back on, or 6 months even of expenses to fall back on? So if you don't have an emergency fund, that's your next step. Budget. And then in your budget, put an item called emergency fund and start putting money into that emergency fund. Once you've built up enough in that emergency fund to cover 3 months of your expenses, then you can go to the next thing. Of course, you would want to do this one simultaneous with that. How many people work for a company that offers a 401k or a 403b? Just say in the chat, yes, I do. And if you do, does your company make a match? Okay, so what happens? Good, Ralph and Homa. And Mallory's husband does, good. Okay, so a 401k is the tax advantaged savings account that's only offered by employers. And you can have some of your salary go into that account every month. And many employers provide a match. So let's say you save 3% of your salary. Well, your employer might match that and give you 3% of your salary, like extra free money. So if your company offers a 401k match, make sure that you are enrolled in that 401k at least up to the amount of the match. Otherwise, you're throwing away free money. Okay, and you also get a tax advantage. You get the money that you put into the 401k gets deducted from your salary, and you don't have to pay taxes on it. You do have to pay taxes on it once it comes out when you're in retirement, but you don't have to pay taxes on it now, so you get a tax benefit. Okay, 403b, no match. Oh, well, at least you have the 403b, but too bad that you don't have the match. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, let's move on. All right, the next step is making a choice if you have debt, because we all know that debt can be like a big boulder on our shoulders. Many of us have student debt. We might have student debt for our kids. We might have car payments. Hopefully not, but we might have credit card debt. And you know that credit card interest is getting higher. The average amount of interest in the United States that credit cards charge a year ago was 16%, a little over 16%. Now that interest rates are rising, the average interest that credit cards charge is 19%. Many credit cards charge a lot more than that, up to like 25% or some crazy thing like that. So think about it. You use your credit card, you buy something with it. Let's just say you buy a sweater with it. If you pay it off over time and you pay 25% interest on it, you're paying way more for that sweater. You didn't get a good deal on it because you're paying way more for that sweater. So if you have debt, you want to pay that off. And the question is, do you want to throw every extra penny towards that debt? Or do you simultaneously want to invest some of that money? And that's a choice for you to make. Some people just want to get rid of the debt. They put all their extra money towards it. And some people also want to see their wealth growing. So they invest at the same time. At least in tax advantaged accounts like IRAs, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay. All right. The next step is to save for your life goals. So what are those goals? Are they a down payment, education, travel? Maybe it's financial independence and freedom from the 9-to-5. You're already saving for retirement if you're putting money in your 401k. But once you've got the emergency fund built up, once you've got that 401k maxed and your IRAs maxed, then you're starting to save for some of these other life goals. And then the final one is just investing. So does anybody here have an IRA, either a Roth IRA or a regular traditional IRA? You can put it in there. Good. Yes, good, good. I hope you're contributing to it on a regular basis. So we want to max out those tax advantaged accounts. Roths are great because when you pull the money out of the Roth, you don't ever have to pay taxes on either the contributions or the earnings. You've already paid taxes on the contributions, but you don't have to pay taxes on the earnings. So Roths are great. So first you want to make sure that you're maxing out anything that's tax advantaged. Once you've done that, then you can invest in other things. You can open a brokerage account. You can invest in yourself. Education, training, starting a business. You can buy real estate. Those are investments too. So those are what I like to call the wealth ladder. And I believe we are just about at the end. So I would love to hear your questions and happy to answer anything. Best way to save for a child's college? Good question. And would having an IRA or Roth IRA compromise if I receive SSI for my kids? Okay, good questions. So let's start with college. So we all know that college is ridiculously expensive, and we don't want our children burdened with major student loans. Small student loans, okay, but we don't want them burdened with hundreds of thousands of dollars student loans. So there are a number of different ways that people save for a child's college. Some people use the Roth IRA because you can take, first of all, you can take contributions out of the Roth IRA anytime without any penalty. You've already paid taxes on it. You can't take the earnings out without penalties. So if you, let's say you invest $1,000 and you make 300, you can take the $1,000 out anytime, but you can't take the 300 out without penalty. But there are exceptions to that, and one is for education. So you can save, and some people do save in a Roth IRA, but Roth IRAs are really designed for retirement. Another thing that people do is they open something called a 529, which is specifically for college. The problem with that is that what if your child decides not to go to college? You know, you can then give the money to another child or another family member, or you can save it for your grandchildren if you want. And also they've expanded what you can use a 529 for. So you can use it now for, I believe you can use it for private school, you can use it for vocational school. So there are other kinds of things that you can use the money saved in a 529. But that's a very big question. That's actually like a seminar on its own, is financing college, but that's sort of the quick answer. And would having an IRA or Roth IRA compromise SSI? The answer is I don't know, but I'm happy to find that out for you. So my email address is right here, Debra@moneysmartforlife.com. And if you want to just send me an email with that question, I'm happy to do a little research and find that out for you. How would we save during this financial crisis? I'm scared. I hear you. It is scary. Inflation is crazy. Going to the grocery store is crazy these days. What used to get by one bag of groceries is now buying like a half a bag of groceries. And the price of gas, I mean, if you drive your car for work, you're stuck. You have to put gas in the car. If you don't have to drive your car for work, I would say really limit the number of trips that you take with, and the number of times you have to put gas in the car. And let's not hesitate. I know this can be a little scary, but let's not hesitate to talk to our employers and let them know that inflation is really killing you. And is there anything that they can do? Many employers are really struggling to find good people to work. And if you're a really good employee, your employer is going to want to keep you. So, you know, that's something that you can do, is talk to your employer maybe about raising your salary. Starting that side hustle is another thing. And then just, you know, being careful about what you buy. I know you probably already are, but shopping at discount grocery stores. I'm in the Boston area, so I don't know the stores near you, but I know that if I go to my local regular grocery store, I'm going to spend a whole lot more money than if I go to Aldi. Do you guys have Aldi where you are?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I always shop at Aldi because the prices are just so much better than at the regular, I don't know how they do it, but at the regular grocery store. It's ALDI, Aldi, Michelle, and yeah, Costco is expensive too. The problem with Costco, I would, if you have a very large family, Costco might be a good suggestion, but Costco is dangerous. Because you go into Costco and you think you're just going to buy the apples and the chicken, And you end up with a shopping cart full of, oh, I need that, and I need that, and I need that. So I find Costco a little dangerous. Yeah, the chicken always gets you for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I agree. It is scary, but there is one principle of financial wellness that I urge all of you to live by, and that's the principle of pay yourself first. So that means most of us pay all our bills, and then if anything's left over, we save it. And I would urge you to flip that. Figure out what you can save, what you want to save first. And anytime money comes in, right off the top, that money automatically goes into savings. And then figure out how you're going to live off the rest. Again, there may be things you have to do, like renting out some space in your basement for somebody who wants to store something, renting a room, getting a side hustle, but pay yourself first so that you're not at the end of the month, you're not saying, oh, there's nothing left this month to save. Other questions? Those were good ones. And I wish I had a magic wand that I could wave and, make inflation go away. Good question. If I save 200 a month, where can I put it so it can gain more money? So the question is, what are you saving for? If you're going to need that money within the next year or the next few years, you want it to be what we call liquid, okay? And that means if you're going to need that money, let's say you're saving for a down payment for a house, or you're saving for something you're going to need soon, you want to be able to get that money with no penalty. So you don't necessarily want to invest it, because we know the market goes up, the market goes down, market goes up, market goes down. Over time, the market, for the past 100 years, the market has trended up. So it's gone down, but if you wait it out, it's gone up, 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 up. All right, so investing is a very good thing to do if you have a long time frame. But if you're going to need that money in the next few years, don't invest it, because the market might go down. So instead, what you want to do is put it maybe in what's called a high yield savings account. Or you might want to, so just Google high yield savings account. I mean, it's a little laughable, high yield. It's like 1%, but 1% is better than it was a little while ago when it was like 0.4%. But a high yield savings account would be a good place to put it. Maybe a certificate of deposit if you don't need to touch the money for 3 months or 5 months or 6 months. Right now, there's something called Series I bonds from the federal government. They're super safe, and they're paying like 9% interest, some crazy thing like that. You can't touch your money for a year. You cannot pull your money out for a year. And if you take your money out within 5 years, then you will, I think they dock 3 months of interest. But at 9%, even docking 3 months of interest, not bad. So that's, another thing to think about is an I series bond. If you're saving for the long term, if you've got 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, then definitely invest it. I legally can't tell you where to put your money. I have my money in index funds, low fee index funds. You can look them up. But that's it. Your investments are for you to decide where to put them. But for longer term, you want to invest. For shorter term, you want something where you can pull your money out. Yes, series. I think it's called. It's not Series E. I think it's Series I. Michelle. Yes. So let's see. How much should you be saving? That depends. For some people, saving just a little bit is going to get them to where they want to be. For some people, saving a whole lot is going to get them where they want to be. So there isn't one answer to how much should you be saving. Where can I get a good budget template? I have a budget template that I love. I don't give it out unless people are working with me. I can certainly, if you want to email me, I can tell you the different categories and show you. It's just a spreadsheet. But just Google budget template and you will come up with literally hundreds, thousands even. And you can fool around with a few and see which one works best for you. There are apps too that you can use on your phone. Okay, dollar cost averaging, Ivan said. Yes, so dollar cost averaging just means instead of taking a big lump sum of money and investing it all at once, you invest a certain amount of money every month. And you just keep on doing that. And I would recommend that that's what you do, because then you're buying when the market goes down, you're buying at a discount. So right now the market is down, and if you're continuing to buy in every month, you're kind of buying at a discount. When the market goes up, you're not buying at a discount, but it balances out over time. Okay, so Nicholas says, yeah, they're paying out 9.62% at the moment. You can only buy up to 10K in I-bonds per year. Thank you for that information. Crypto, LOL. So here's what I have to say about crypto. So crypto's fun. If you have extra money to play with, it's sort of like going to Vegas, you know? I mean, if you say, I'm gonna spend $100 on gambling, and when I'm done, and that $100 was just my play money, nothing wrong with that. If you go to Vegas and you say, oh, I lost $100, I better put another $100 at it. I better put another $100 and another $100, then you're getting in trouble, right? Crypto's kind of the same way right now. Like crypto could possibly be our future. You know, I mean, it's very possible, but right now it's so volatile that if you want to put a little, if you have some extra money and you want to put a little extra money towards crypto, go have fun. But, you know, definitely don't put your whole nest egg into crypto. That's scary. That would scare me. Okay. Anything else? Great questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you. This is Michelle. Thank you so much for being here and answering all the questions. And you know, if anyone missed it, we will have a recording of it. Someone you know who wants to watch it in the community. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
And if, again, I'm happy to answer questions over email. So if anybody wants to email me, feel free. All right.
Stop the recording.